Okay, this meeting of the House Environmental Resource and Energy Committee will now come to order. Mary, will you lead us in the pledge? Justice for all. Okay, Evan, would you do the roll call?
Vitale,
Present.
Fleming,
Designation.
Green,
Designation.
Hohenstein, Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation.
Mays,
Designation.
Otten, Pielli, Salisbury,
Designation.
Siegel,
Designation.
Steele,
Designation.
Takak,
Designation.
Webster.
Here.
Causer,
Here.
Armanini, here. Barton, here. Borowitz,
Designation.
Cook, Ham, here. Kephart, here. Schemmel,
Designation.
Stambaugh,
Designation.
Warner,
Designation.
Wentling.
Okay. We're hoping this will be an illuminating hearing today. We have one bill on our... Did you catch that? You're the only one. Yeah, I thank you for catching that. We have one bill on the schedule, House Bill 1803. Before we get to that, Chair Cowser, do you have any opening remarks?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so on the agenda, House Bill 1803. Do we have a motion and a second to take this up? Mary moves and Joe Webster second. Okay, very good. So we've taken up the bill. We have one amendment, Amendment 4173. Do we have a motion and second to take that? Joe, so moved, and Joe Webster, second. Let's give the, I'm sorry. So Joe Webster, second. Joe Hohenstein's the maker of the motion. Okay, got it. Right. So I'd like to give the maker of the bill the opportunity to explain his bill and then explain his amendment. Rep. Pielli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. The beginnings of this bill long ago started when I was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas, and out in maneuvers during the evening and looking up into the sky, seeing something that I've never seen before. The canopy of stars. One of our squad leaders was actually into astronomy and pointed out the planet Venus that we could see. That's something that we no longer see because the night sky is hidden due to light pollution, and everybody has a right to see it. However, this is not just about seeing the stars. Reducing light pollution would bring a broad range of benefits to Pennsylvania. It would benefit our wildlife and our ecosystems by restoring the daily cycle of light and dark that has been disrupted by artificial light. Plants, animals, insects have been dependent on the Earth's day-night cycle for billions of years for reproduction, nourishment, sleep, and protection from predators. So much so that it is literally encoded in our DNA. By reducing light pollution, we will reverse many of its negative and deadly effects on our wildlife that we're seeing, and I could spend some time talking about the adverse effects like migratory bird patterns, turtles. The list goes on. There has been tremendous adverse impacts, but not just to our wildlife. It wouldn't only benefit the health of the wildlife, but also that of humans. It has been shown through studies that excess artificial light has adversely affected our circadian rhythms, interfering with our ability to sleep, and that in turn, the sleep deprivation, has been linked to several serious diseases such as obesity, depression, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Not everyone can afford things like blackout curtains, and so it's especially low-income Pennsylvanians who seem to be suffering the most. This is not only a burden on the people affected, but our healthcare system. Reducing light pollution will, simply put, make humans healthier. We have a very understandable tendency to light up in the dark to avoid crime, and I will say before we get any questions regarding that, we have recently, and I mean last night, have some feedback from some of the state-related institutions that have been included in this amendment for clarity purposes. This is not an unfunded mandate for private business or industry. I want to make that clear, and I'm open to any and all suggestions about clarifying that and making that clear to everyone involved. But we probably will be working on an amendment. When you see the exception section of the bill, we have hospitals, we have correctional facilities, and I believe some of the state-related schools will probably be in this amendment that we're going to be working on shortly. Finally, reducing light pollution will save us money, conserve energy, and benefit our economy. Powering lights at night takes immense energy. When we shoot lights into the sky, as opposed to the ground where we want visibility, we're wasting energy. It's simple. By simply changing to more efficient bulbs, adding shields to light fixtures to direct the light to go where we want it to go, and dimming our lights to more sensible and efficient levels, we will see enormous benefits in the long run. And by reducing the amount of energy being consumed, we also help reduce conventional pollution, which helps to prevent environmental issues and climate change. I'll also note that dark skies tourism is something that is very interesting. Here in Pennsylvania, for example, we have Cherry Springs State Park. It is well known for being the best place in the United States east of the Mississippi to view the night sky. So this is, I see it not as a partisan bill. This is a common sense solution which will benefit the rural parts of our state as much as the urban parts of our state. And the night sky is a shared heritage of all Pennsylvanians. And I would like to also note that other states have done this, and including some municipalities here in Pennsylvania. We have Pittsburgh, Upper Dublin Township, Birmingham Township, and West Brandywine Township have implemented dark skies legislation. And we do have a number of states. Actually, there's 19 states: Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas, Virginia, and Wyoming. So I hope for your support, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Rep. Pielli. Now we have Amendment 4173 before us, and before we open that up to questions or comments, Evan, could you give a brief outline of that amendment?
A04173 is an omnibus amendment that makes technical and substantive changes throughout the bill, including adding definitions for state-aided entities, and state-related colleges and universities, as well as clarifying that requirements related to outdoor restrictions apply only to projects that receive state funding for local governments.
Okay. With regard to Amendment 4173, do we have any questions or comments? Chair Cowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly very aware of dark skies, and the prime sponsor's comments are very relative to me. I represent Cherry Springs State Park, which is the darkest place east of the Mississippi. And if you haven't been there, you should make the trip to just outside Coudersport in Potter County and visit us at Cherry Springs State Park. And in fact, this legislature designated the highway, State Route 44, up by Cherry Springs State Park as the highway to the stars. So it's definitely something you should visit. But I have a number of concerns with this legislation and would like to ask the gentleman a question if he'll entertain them.
Okay, please ask your question.
My question relative to the bill is has there been a cost analysis or any studies done to determine the exact implications from a financial point of view on just how much this bill is going to to cost?
We have not done a study. We have looked towards other states that have implemented similar legislation, and there has been cost savings. There is an initial cost to some who will transition, but there is a transition period. This is not an automatic replacement. This is for the life of the bulb. Any bulb that is above 2,700 Kevlars will eventually be phased out. So the life of a bulb, say that's 3,000 K, would continue until it was time to replace it. In addition, for any stockpiles that we may have, we've worked extensively with DGS, considering any cost factors that might come in. And that's why we have in the bill the 12-month transition period. You could use up all of that stock before you're held to the law. So I have not done, we have not done any exact studies, but we have worked extensively with DGS and their concerns, to your point.
In my reading of the bill, it seems like the cost would be quite significant just with what's required to be replaced, even if it is over time. It's a significant cost, so that is certainly a concern to me. Am I correct in my reading of the bill that it exempts the state capitol also?
Yes, there are exceptions to the state capitol for historic preservation. Also the Capitol dome lights, for example, where it can be implemented without causing any historic adverse impacts. There are exceptions for that in the bill.
And I can certainly understand the historic preservation aspect, but at the same time, we're placing a mandate on business across the Commonwealth and educational institutions, and at the same time exempting the state capitol, which may not go over very well with a lot of folks. So I guess my concern with this is it appears to be a huge mandate across the Commonwealth, and before we would move forward with such a bill, I think that significant analysis should be performed so that we have a better grasp on exactly the implications of this legislation. So I thank the gentleman for your answers, and I'm going to urge a negative vote on the bill.
Okay, just to be clear, I'm not the expert that Rep. Pielli is, but this does not apply to private businesses as you suggested it might. Any other questions or comments before we do a roll call vote on the amendment? Okay, Evan, would you take the roll on Amendment 4173?
Vitale,
Yes.
Fleming,
Designation yes.
Green,
Designation yes.
Hohenstein, Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation yes.
Mays,
Designation yes.
Otten, Pielli,
Yes.
Salisbury,
Designation yes.
Siegel,
Designation yes.
Steele, Takak,
Designation yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Causer,
No,
Armanini, Barton, Borowitz,
no,
Cook, Ham,
No.
Kephart, Schemmel, Stambaugh,
designation, no,
Warner,
designation, no.
Wentling.
Okay, the amendment passes. We now have before us House Bill 1803 as amended by 4173. Do we have any questions or comments on the bill as amended? Rep. Ham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Listen to the description of this legislation just brings a question to mind. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This legislation starts with government facilities, structures, places, and spaces. Let's be clear, this legislation is an unfunded mandate on our townships, our boroughs, our cities, and our counties. And we all know how unfunded mandates go. Unfunded mandates get pushed down on local government, and it's the taxpayers in those local communities that get stuck footing that bill. That's exactly what this bill is going to do. It's going to push an unfunded mandate down on our local municipalities. And our taxpayers, the hardworking men and women of Pennsylvania, are going to get stuck footing this bill. Further into the description here, it talks about where it talked about government structures, facilities, place, and spaces. It says, this Commonwealth shall encourage residents, business owners, and others to join in transitioning to responsible lighting principles. I've only been here 3 years, Chairman, and a lot shorter time than maybe you've been here, but I've learned and picked up on some things pretty quickly. And what I've found is we eat an elephant one bite at a time. This is the first step. And once this is in place, not that I think it'll go in place, but once it would be in place, I'm telling you who they're coming after next. It's going to be the business owners. It's going to be residents of this Commonwealth. Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, this legislation is, it's just not good. It's at a time when inflation's raging, people are struggling to make ends meet, and we're going to ask them to dig further into their pockets. I'll be voting no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments. I will note that there are numerous provisions in this bill to minimize transitional costs to those affected, and I also will note that the citizens of the Commonwealth will benefit in many ways, as described by Rep. Pielli, with regard to the benefit of excess lighting in the environment. Any other questions or Marty on the bill 1803?
Mr. Chairman, one additional comment. In reading the bill, it does sort of go back and forth. I understand the gentleman's intent in saying that it's state buildings, state-related buildings, public buildings, but when you actually read the bill and go back and forth with the language, it's somewhat confusing in what actually does apply. And, you know, on page 5 of the bill, it references replacement of current lighting units. All lighting units with lamps greater than 27,000 K that were installed prior to the effective date of this paragraph and that produce light pollution need not be replaced until the end of their life, but shall comply with subsection C. So when you're actually reading through this and what it will apply to, it does look like, at least at some point, it will comply with a broader subsect than just public buildings, to the gentleman from Lycoming's prior comments, and I think that's very problematic.
Okay, I'll just say in response, I've read this a number of times, and I think it's clear this does not affect commercial or business entities. Okay, any other questions or comments before we take the roll? Evan? This is on House Bill 1803 as amended by 4173.
Vitale,
Yes?
Fleming,
Designation yes?
Green,
Designation yes?
Hohenstein,
Yes.
Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation yes?
Mays,
Designation yes?
Otten, Pielli,
Yes.
Salisbury,
Designation yes?
Siegel,
Designation yes?
Steele, Takak,
Designation yes?
Webster,
Yes.
Causer,
No,
Armanini, Barton, Borowitz,
no,
Cook, Ham, Kephart, Schemmel, Stambaugh,
no,
Warner,
no.
Wentling.
Okay, the bill passes and will be reported to the House as a whole. That's the only item on our agenda. Before we adjourn, Marty, do you have any closing comments or remarks?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then this hearing is adjourned.